People eventually snap, their body breaks down, and eventually they listen to their body, thank God. And they say, you know what, I'm going to take a day today, but I don't want to tell anybody because I don't want to show weakness.
Howdy ho, Rob.
Hey, Carol, how you doing? Happy summer.
Thank you. It is. It's been probably pretty hot where you are in Florida, eh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, very hot. We are in a heat wave and no rain. So, yeah.
Yeah. We've been getting a little bit of rain here in Colorado where I am, but half my grass that's on the south side of my house is literally burned up and dead.
Ugh, I hate that.
You just can't. There's, you water how you're supposed to water, and, south facing hilly areas just get destroyed.
Yeah, no, I get it. Well,
and we're on water restrictions.
Yeah, we are too. Well, this is the summer of learning. So what are we going to learn today in the short time?
Well, you sent me an article in Business Insider a few weeks ago called "The Depressing Reality of Quiet Vacationing." Why is everyone suddenly going on trips without actually taking time off? And this is really interesting because, the email that you received and forwarded to me, was sort of titled "Down Low Vacation." Are you working today, or are you working today? Right. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I'm going to let you start this one off because this is really interesting.
Well, I mean, look, I read it a few times, and I kept chuckling. A couple of things I got. One of the first things I got was, of course, they're picking on the millennials again, and I'm like, calling bullshit on that because, everybody's doing this, right? This is, overwork, stress, high stress.
Mm-hmm.
You know where I go with this with the mental health issues. It's just insane right now. Everybody's fight or flight. It's all cortisol running through the body, and everybody's just trying to survive instead of thriving. And this is a perfect example of what happens. People eventually snap, their body breaks down, and eventually they listen to their body, thank God. And they say, you know what, I'm going to take a day today, but I don't want to tell anybody because I don't want to show weakness. I don't want to show vulnerability, because what's lacking in the culture is psychological safety. What's lacking in the culture is the ability to do that. Now, hey, look, I'll turn it over to you, a quick story. One of my cool mentors, Marva Baylor, you know her. What a beautiful soul. She's been in my life for the last 10 years. And, I remember one time in particular, it was just mayhem. We were just going lights out. And, I was just stressed out. And she took me aside and she said, hey, Rob, why don't you go play golf today? Why don't you just get out of here and go play golf, chill out, enjoy your day, enjoy your family. We'll pick it up again tomorrow. It's all good. What a life changer.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think I was more invested in the success of me, myself, the company, her, everything? Of course I was when I came back. Why isn't that happening? Why is this article even published? Why can't we get to a place where there is safety in what I say, disconnecting to reconnect? You go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Listen, no truer words have been spoken. And I think that, this whole article really talks about this, right? There's no set definition of quiet vacationing, it says, and it can encompass a variety of behaviors, traveling to a faraway place and not saying anything while still getting your work in, or not working, but keeping your mouse moving to appear as if you're online in hopes that no one will notice you're dropping productivity.
Wow.
It's they're saying that this has really been brought about by the rise of remote work. And I would say I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Right. When for years, you and I have never, I've always been, not always, the first 9 years of my career, I went to an office, and then I, was working remote. So I went into my own business. But, the reality is I can remember, if I wanted to take off a Friday, always getting some shit from my boss.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, dude, when you start paying me $150,000 salary plus commission instead of, commission only, which is basically what all headhunters do, right?
Right.
They eat what they kill. Then you can tell me when I have to be in the office, when I've had zillions, many, many years of experience. I can understand when you're a new employee and you're learning the business, but, 6, 7, 8, 9 years into it, I don't want to hear you.
Well,
Right.
yeah, exactly. I remember I told you this story when back in the 80s, and it was, when I was starting out in sales, and hey, I'm taking
Yeah.
Friday off, and my boss would look at me and say, "Well, if you think you can do that, then go ahead." And it's like, like the guilt, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly right. It's sort of a passive aggressive thing, really,
Yeah,
is what
yeah,
that is. If you think you can do it,
right.
yeah, that just really chaps my ass to hear that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, look, this is a perfect example of why people are just not
Doing
engaged.
it on the sneak. That's
Yeah,
right.
they do it on the sneak. I mean,
Yeah.
and everybody's doing it. So I call bullshit on the millennials or Gen Z. Enough of this
Yes.
generational shit. This is everybody's doing it. And they're doing it because everybody is in the same issue. They're all fight or flight. They're all trying to survive. They're all trying to be strong and not vulnerable. They're trying to be strong
Right.
for everybody. And, I work harder than you, so I'm worth you. And, don't forget that cloud overhead of layoffs. There's a lot of stuff going on. We talked about, was it overemployment, right? That was because of layoffs, right? This could be the same kind of thing. It's like, hey, I don't want anybody to know that I took time off. I want them to know I'm working 24/7, so I don't get on that list. It's horrible.
It is. And I mean, I can certainly understand feeling that way if I were in that position, right?
Sure.
I can't tell you the numbers of time. I think I got my first cell phone, which wasn't a cell phone, it was a car phone in 1994. And for all those of you younger folks listening to this, there were actual car phones attached to your vehicle.
Yeah.
You couldn't take it with you. So you had to go to the place and they wired it all into your vehicle.
Yeah, and couldn't take a picture of it either, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, exactly. You could take a picture of it. It sat on your console or somewhere. And I can't tell you the number of times I would pick up the phone at my desk and, in the 90s and even in the early 2000s and, call a sales rep or a sales manager on a Friday. They'd pick up the phone. Hey, I'm just getting ready to tee off, Carol. Can I call you back later? Can I talk tomorrow, next week? And that's just, so that's why, your whole calling bullshit on the millennials, you're right. It's been going on with baby boomers and Gen X, I'm sure, for many years, right? I don't often, half the free world is probably taking this Friday off. They'll be hearing this after the fact because, of course, the 4th of July is coming up tomorrow,
right?
Or a month and a half ago, depending on when you're listening to this,
right?
But because the 4th of July lands on a Thursday, unless you're basically in retail,
right?
Most people will take Friday off and make it a 4-day weekend. That's just kind of how it's kind of if Christmas falls on a Thursday, right? That's what people do. They take off Friday and they have a whole long weekend.
It's crickets.
And, I'm working on Friday morning because I have work to do. And then I got a memorial to go to in the afternoon and I'll cut out in the afternoon. And, granted I work for myself, but, the reality is, if I'm not working, I'm not earning money. Right. So, but it's the ability to be able to do that. I don't often take off a Friday afternoon. Occasionally I do, or I meet somebody for drinks at 4, on a Friday afternoon. And, I think that yes, it's easier to do that when you're self-employed because you don't have somebody breathing down your neck. Now, if I had a project I had again, I wouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
But the point here, and you've already made this, is that people feel like they just can't take the time off. Like, what's up with that?
Well, it's the pressure. It's the pressure of business these days, and the speed of business. I used to tell people I was an advocate for people disconnecting to reconnect, and I would really be mindful of that and not call them and not that's just not right, and get them to disconnect. And I would always joke and I would take a week off or 2 weeks off and I come back and I say, I was really shocked that the company is still in business. I was gone for 2 weeks. I mean, like it freaking mattered, it's like no one, why not take that time, and I spent a few years in Europe, as leading over there, and remarkable how, I took a week off. I remember I took a week off in July. I talked to my boss. I'm going to take a week off. He goes, a week? How come you're not taking 3 weeks? And, I didn't have a concept of that. I remember being on the phone and it was going, he goes, "You still there?" I go, "Yeah, I'm just hit the floor," because I've never heard a boss tell me to take 3 weeks off in my career, 40 years. So I think it's a culture thing. I think it's got to be something that the company gets behind and the leadership gets behind, and it's
Mm-hmm.
okay to do it. You got to be okay to do that. One of the things I retired from Splunk, and what an amazing company that was. And they used to do the summer break and the winter break. And so for
Mm-hmm.
July, they used to do, I don't know if they do it now, but they used to take, they give us a couple of days and we took our 3 and it was a week,
Yeah.
and it was a really cool thing to do, to kind of get away and disconnect. And then we come back and go
Mm-hmm.
crazy and go, you just
Mm-hmm.
be re-energized. Right. But people are very leery because of layoffs, because people are just leery in general. Anybody I talk to is like, yeah, well, I hope I still have my job next year. Why wouldn't you? No one said anything. There's been no comments. There's been nothing in the news, but yet this is what they internalize. So,
Mm. So
we always worry
unhealthy.
about the future, not knowing what the future is going to bring. It's like you can't
Mm-hmm.
control it anyways. And in most cases, what we worry about in the future never freaking happens. It never happens. So you can sit there and you can worry about the future and worry about taking vacation, or worry about telling your boss you're taking Friday off or taking a week off. It's like, you know, you want people to be healthy, and this is a way that they're healthy. If they're not taking time off, they're working 24/7 and they're just worried all the time, and they've got that cortisol running through their veins, they're not healthy. And you know what? I don't want them working for me. I want them healthy. So you, as leaders, we have got to make sure that we do what's right for them, on anybody under our charge, on our teams, around us. We have to be mindful of this, and we have to
Yeah.
change the game so these articles don't get posted. It really pisses me off that this article has actually been written, because it shouldn't
Right.
even be written.
Right. Well, I mean, I think often many times journalism is written to, get people's panty in a bunch,
Yeah.
right? Their panties in a bunch.
Well, they
And,
survived me. They got me in a bench.
and I mean, it's interesting. One of the things they talk about is they say that, 80 of the people they asked about vacationing and so on and so forth, 83% of the respondents said they were, perfectly happy with their company's, PTO policy, right?
Yeah.
But that they didn't feel like they could actually take the time off that they're given,
Ugh.
right? 8 in 10 workers said they didn't use the maximum amount of PTO.
Yep.
Some said they felt pressure to always be available. Others cited heavy workloads as their reason. Almost half said they get nervous about requesting time away, and 3/4 said they wish their workplace culture put more value on taking breaks. Workers reported being tricky about the whole thing too, right? About a third said they moved their mouse to make it look like they were online, which I said before earlier. And about the same share said they scheduled messages outside work hours to give the impression that they were working overtime. I mean, this is so pitiful.
That's pretty cool.
that this is what it has come to. I'm going away to the Shoshone National Forest to ride in August, near the end of August. Now, a lot of people will be on vacation at the end of August, of course.
Yeah.
But I'm not even sure where we'll be. I'll have Wi-Fi. I've got to find out. I'm certainly not going to be when I'm on the back of a horse in wilderness.
Right.
Right. Nor do I want to get a message when I'm out on the back of my horse enjoying our beautiful national forest in this country. Right. And it's sad that that's what I have to do to get away from it all.
Right. It is sad. Yeah. But we have to do it. I mean, look, Mental Health America, 1 in 5 adults are facing depression or mental health issues. 1 in 5.
Yeah.
That pretty much puts you in a meeting. 2 people in that meeting are suffering
Mhm.
from mental health issues in most cases. 2, maybe 3
Yeah.
in a basic
Mhm.
meeting in an office. These are the issues that we're coming down to.
Yeah.
And me as an advocate here, the
Yeah.
mental health issue is rampant. And that's depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation. All this stuff is coming to a head. And this is a byproduct of that. Is the cultures of these companies have got to switch. They've got to change. And they've got to be open and honest and authentic about the fact that their people need to disconnect or reconnect. That's a simple concept. And I've been saying it for a few years now. And I'll tell you what, I live and breathe it. Now, I have my own business just like you. It's a little different now. But when I was working in corporate America, I would disconnect to reconnect. And,
Yeah.
and in the long run, it would serve me right. And when I was a leader, that was something that I would really make sure my people did, because it's important to me that, again, it goes back to, I want them healthy. I want them mentally healthy.
So this may be, I want to know your opinion on this, because it makes me think of, is this mostly publicly traded companies?
What a good question.
And here's why I think about that, right? Because they're driven by stock prices, revenues, which then affects their stock prices, right? And I mean, I'm sure there are, non-public companies that are like that too. But I just, as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, I wonder if this is just really mostly about, because all they care about is quarter to quarter, right? Yeah. Nobody really looks at, are we talent centric? Because if we were, it would solve all these problems. I hate to break the news to you.
Yeah, that's a good question. It really is a really good question. I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I wonder if a lot of it is, but I can tell you now, I have also been on the flip side of startups, and I did that, as you know, for a number of years, and took a couple, helped take a couple public, and in my career, going through all that, I did that for, oh my gosh, over a decade. And that was crazy. That was even worse.
Yes, it is.
So I agree with you, and I'm trying to figure out, like, I think it's either or.
Because it's not a 1 and a 0, but it's just sort of a thought that came into my head, right?
No, and I think that there's so much pressure for stockholder value. There's so much pressure. So the public companies have got to perform. So I think that's table stakes, Carol. I think you're right on. That's a must. And I think that's where that pressure is coming from. And then if you put, a startup into that mode, then, you've got pressure in that one. So I think it's both sides of the aisle.
Yeah. And you are right about that, right? So it makes me think of a startup I worked with in, I want to say maybe 2015. I started working with them. They hadn't even closed their A round yet.
Oh, okay. But everybody's on board.
And I'm sorry?
Everybody's on board, right? All hands on.
Right. Yeah, that's right. They had 9 employees, I think, at that point, right? The co-founders, there were 3 of them. They had hired a head of sales, a head of marketing, that kind of stuff to start building. And they were getting ready to close their A round, which I knew. But, it was interesting because I remember one of the co-founders said to me one day, he said, Carol, if somebody starts talking about work-life balance, they are not a fit for us. And you know what? Listen, they sold their company to VMware for over $500 million 5 years later. People left very, very rich in a fairly short amount of time, and they worked their asses off. Yep. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't tell people, if you're looking for a work-life balance, we do not have that here right now. I mean, set up the proper expectation.
Yeah, be honest. Yeah.
Right? I think that's perfectly okay.
Yep.
So it's just those who kind of pull the bait and switch on you. That's what I have a problem with.
I agree, and it is the what do you call it? You mentioned it earlier, but it's the psychological safety we talked about, right?
Right. Or culture of feedback. You cannot have psychological safety if you don't have in a culture of feedback. You can't have a culture of feedback without psychological safety.
Right, and the guilt, and then passive aggressiveness. That's what I was trying to say.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So
got it. But you've got all these things playing with your managers and your team and the people around you. And, it's just adding to the fire. And I don't know, when the rubber band snaps, I don't know when it's going to happen. This could be a perfect example of really making that rubber band snap, right? It's like, oh, I'm taking a vacation without anybody knowing that I'll fix them. It's not, nobody wins on that, right? Nobody.
Yeah. And that's interesting because, as I was talking about how people will, they're talking about how people will, the ability to connect from anywhere. It's a double-edged sword, right? Yeah. It's like, when do you ever get to disengage? Say, sure, it's nice to be able to answer an email on a midday walk or from a relative's house over the holidays, right? But it sucks to know your boss knows that you saw that 10 p.m. Slack message pop up on your phone.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think to myself, well, listen, when I'm in between sets at the gym, I mean, I'll hear, because I'm wearing a headset at the gym listening to music, but I'll hear if a text comes in or something like that. And, when I'm in between a set, I'll listen to it. And if I have to respond to it, I'll usually just send a voice response because it's quicker. you know, and then sometimes sometimes I'll say, listen, I'm at the gym. I'll, when when I'm home back at my desk, I'll get back to this.
That's where we are, though, Carol. Right? This is where we are.
Yeah.
And the ship has sailed. Right? We're not certainly going to change this. I mean, we're going to see more of these articles, more of these studies.
Mm-hmm.
This is not going to go away. It's already gone. It's done. So now it's now it's about how can leadership and company culture kind of pivot as much as they can to make people realize they are safe. And this is the culture we want. And that's going to be up to each company. That's going to be up to, the culture of the company. And that, but as far as being always on, we got cell phones, we've got social media.
Mm-hmm.
That ship that's gone. It's, unfortunately that is already a thing. And we can't stop that. We're not going to pivot back. We're just getting even more and more now. It's becoming the speed of light business these days, and that's big.
Yeah. And one of the quotes that somebody said here is, by always feeling like you have to stay connected, you never recover from work.
Never. No, you never. And that's
really, really interesting. And I think it's really poignant, actually. You're constantly running a marathon.
No. And I study the body, the physiology, and that's what I coach. And and I'm dealing with people all the time that are just, man. I mean, their bodies, they're in bad shape and mentally and physically. And it's because of all this, and the fear of missing out, or the fear of, all this stuff, the FOMO, and, you hear about it all the time. And, it's a shame. It really is. And, it's easy for me now being out of corporate America, and I don't really want to slight this, right? Because this is a big thing. And, I had my moments in my career where, when I left a company, I had 4 weeks PTO. Well, why did I do that? Because I never took vacation, right? That was on me. And now I've got some gray hair and I've got some lessons learned, and all I can do now is try and pass on the lessons learned to the leaders to say, that you need to have some kind of break, some kind of disconnect, because it's about mental health. And, you want the people around you and under your charge to be mentally healthy. And you can't see that. That's what pisses me off. You can't see that. That's the problem with what's going on here. If I say, hey, boss, I got to take Friday off and I got my hand in a sling because I broke my arm or I broke a rib and I'm taped up. Hey, dude, go home, relax, get on the couch, watch Netflix.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay. I got you. I got your back. It's all good. But if it's a mental health issue, suck it up, buttercup. Get back in the game. And that's a problem we have right now. And that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah. I want to read one more thing or say one more thing about this article that you sent me that I was unaware of, right? And they say, the author says in the kind of introduction, personally, I blame the hesitancy to fully unplug on one man, Wally Pipp. Pipp was the New York Yankees first baseman, twice leading the American League in home runs and helping the Yankees win a World Series in 1923. But as legend goes, on June 2nd, 1925, Pipp asked out of the lineup due to a headache. His replacement was Lou Gehrig, who went on to play more than 2,100 consecutive games en route to a legendary career. Now, Pipp's name is synonymous with the risk of taking your foot off the gas.
Yeah.
Long before FOMO, there was fear of getting Wally pipped. It also makes for great fodder for LinkedIn influencers who tout the importance of hashtag hustle harder, right? And with the threat of layoffs, which you pointed out, right? Ongoing, it's no wonder people might not want to be seen taking it easy. I mean, this is it's pitiful.
Hey, it happened to Drew Bledsoe, right? He got hurt, right? He got hurt. And guess who came in to take his place? Tom Brady. End of story.
Right.
So, I mean, that's just the way it is now. It was an injury, right? But still, same thing.
Yeah.
People will come in and take over for you. You don't know if you'll ever get back in the game. I get it. Right. I totally get it. But we've got to be mentally strong. It's a muscle.
Yeah.
Mental health it's a muscle, and you have to go to the mental gym. Just like we go to the gym. You go to the gym. I go to the gym.
Right.
We work out. We build our biceps, triceps, our quad, everything, right? Well, we have to go to the mental gym, and that's all part of this. And it comes back around full circle to psychological safety. It comes back to culture. It comes back to making sure that the leadership is vulnerable enough and authentic enough to say it's okay to take that time off, so they're not sneaking around. That's just crazy.
Right. And I'm curious when you talk about going to the mental gym, which I love, right? Is it just sort of the mental gym's different for everybody?
Absolutely. I got that from Tony Robbins, right? Tony Robbins taught me, hey, go to the mental gym. And I'm like, what the hell does that mean? And then I started to really be a student of the game. As you know, I really went inward the last decade. And that's what I found out was, what that concept really means is be a student of your game. It means do your personal development, because if you transform your personal life, you will transform your business life.
Well, and we've talked about that. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean,
you don't have business problems. You have personal problems that show up in your business.
Absolutely. So I always say, that's my tagline: transform your personal life, transform your professional life. And it's really important. And that is about going to the mental gym. And that means taking care of yourself. It means, being a lifelong learner. Exhibiting growth mindset, being comfortable, being uncomfortable. I can go on, right? This is the kind of stuff we talk about. But that's what I mean by the mental gym. It's like push yourself personally, and then all this other stuff goes away.
Yep. Excellent.
I believe it because I lived it and I breathed it for the last decade. And everything changed for me.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Okay. I got nothing more to say. What about you?
I'm done. Not just the millennials. That's all I got to say. I'm just tired of these articles. I feel bad for these guys. Guys, it's every generation. So I want to leave that with that. It's not millennials. It's not Gen Z. It's baby boom. It's everybody. So that's what we talked about today. So great discussion. Thanks, Carol. As always, I love it.
See you, Rob.
With that note, I'm going on vacation. So I'll see you.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Thanks for listening to Authentically Successful After Hours. I'm your host, Carol Schultz.
And I'm your co-host, Rob Swymer. Hey, don't forget to click follow to hear more. And please leave us an honest review and rating so we can continue to improve and bring you more great stories.
Thanks again for listening, and see you next time.